consciousness, it wasn't real quick.
One matrix is everything. It is all known.
The aliens were like, coming up. Our DNA was split, dude,
Yeah,
from
bro.
the fucking Anunnaki,
Missed
man.
By the process of elimination, you might determine that you are probably being visited.
Well, you know, maybe some of them did really have some kind of experience or saw something. And
The aliens are like telepathic. I don't even believe this.
From saying extraterrestrials are related to UFOs.
I've had
You could potentially come to the same conclusion. It is the veil that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What's going on, fellas?
Yo, what's up, guys?
Not much. I'm pretty stoked on this one.
Yeah, this one
It's gonna be a good one.
Chris, I think you might be echoing a bit.
All right, let me chill.
So first off, thank you for everyone who decided to drop by tonight. We're going to be talking about these specific artifacts from Egypt that I find complete controversial to what is being told by the mainstream, like normal. I'm not, again, like, never claimed to be a historian, scientist, or anything along those lines. So can't really offer, concrete evidence, but I wanted to, we wanted to take the time to kind of just go over what we found is weird about these things. A lot of our information is coming from, people like Randall Carlson, and specifically with these ones, Ben Van Kerkwick. I will drop a link in the chat and probably should edit into the description of his channel, because he does really, really great work kind of breaking down the actual mathematics of it.
I was impressed by the way he explained it and mapped it all out. It made it a lot easier to to make sense out of things.
Yeah, no, totally.
He's one of the people that's actually going for it. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of the premier people that understand what he's looking at, and he's not scared to go. Him and Christopher Dunn and a few other people like him.
What's up, Jim? So for those of you watching the replay or who are here right now, I just entered in his channel in the chat. Highly recommend you guys going and checking out his stuff. Essentially, I deleted my photo. What's up, Pilgrim? No worries if you can't stick around. Let me pull up a photo quickly, just so you guys can get an idea of what these things look like before we start kind of diving into the nuances of them. Here's one. Yeah, so kind of, the closer I get in, it's not horrible quality. So, okay, I guess let's lay out a few of the facts that I at least picked up on, and you guys feel free to jump in with anything else that I might have missed. But one interesting aspect of these vases, and there are a couple other ones we'll show, but some of them are so thin that you could put a flashlight up to them and light goes. It's translucent, so that already shows a level of precision machinery that these things were supposedly built by hand, and that's just not. It's not physically possible to do things like that, right? Back in the day, and especially with this type of stone, which is another anomaly, is that these are like a lot of these are made out of basalt or granite, lapis lazuli, and these are all these stone. And I forget the measurement like category that they use for them, but these are all in comparison to like diamond. They're right under diamond. I think basalt even might be harder than diamond.
This was a rate like 9, and I think a diamond's 10.
Yeah. And so again, it's like, how can you sit here and tell us that these ancient folk who don't even have the wheel yet are using like their bare hands to create even just the width or thickness of this vase, so because again, when you're chiseling at stone, the roughness of the outer edge and inner edge is one thing. How are you sanding it down to polish it like that?
Yep.
And then also, if you start tapping on something that thin that stone could have light shine through it,
Yep.
well, it doesn't make sense. It's going to
And
crack, you know.
and they're perfectly symmetrical. They're weighted perfectly, so where they set up on a fine edge, they set straight up. It's pretty crazy.
And the diameter, I think he was talking about, or I think he was just talking about the symmetry of it, like you had said, is within 17. Some of them are measured at 17 thousandths of a hair in precision. So
Right.
that basically means that it's more precise than anything that we even have today in the modern. And one of the interesting things I was kind of thinking about was we're only able to make this type of stuff like with plastics or like glass in like really controlled environments, so whether you're pouring it into a mold and you're using a molten material and then it hardens and you get a similar effect, or nowadays you could do things like 3D modeling, but we really can't make things like this it out of the same material even today, right? And we're what, 6,000 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
it just doesn't make sense to me, and that's kind of the main point that I wanted to kind of kick this off with.
Yeah, that like what I found really amazing is the fact that, when they look at when they were found, or like how they would find them in, buried in the tombs and stuff, and then they'd also be found with some of the clay pottery and all that. And the thing is that they could attribute the clay pottery to being made by the tools of the time, that the
Right.
Egyptians used, and during that time, but they couldn't attribute or make things with the tools that they had at that time, and there was no tools found with those. There's been no tools that they found with that yet. So, like they're saying, it's a lost technology or a lost way to do things, and
Well,
that's
and
kind of runs
that
on everything else. So like I just and here, how about this? Like, okay, I'm impressed by the shape of the vase and all that, but like, how did they get the insides of it out? You know what I mean? To keep
Yeah.
that without it breaking. I mean, because I could see like the boring the handles, on the side. I could see maybe some chiseling through that, but and maybe like but to get the stuff, the granite out of the inside to make it hollow, like that's the one to bore it out. You'd have to have some sort of reamer that expands and there, to me, the only way I could see them doing that is with some sort of intense heat. Like there's no like device.
Yeah, and the issue that Chris had brought up, the level of precision already throws that out of the window.
Yep.
The drilling of the handles, because they're identical, like the sides of like, and I don't know if he actually measured this specific one. I remember finding a photo of one of the ones he brought up in a video that maybe we can dig through later on. But again, it all the tools and that's an argument that the people like Flint Dibble and all these other archaeologists love to bring up, and historians, is, well, where are the tools? If they had these advanced tools, then they should be lying around. We should have been able to find them. But we don't know that, like, we're viewing it from a lens of what we know now.
Like standard tools.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't standard tools.
Yeah. Did they use standard or metric?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's oh, sorry. So it's, shoot, did I accidentally drop you out, Stezo?
No, I'm here.
Okay. I think
There's an echo going on.
yeah. I don't know if that's on my end or not.
Am I echoing?
Here, let me refresh my page. Hold on. Sorry, folks.
It's all good. I'm here.
I'm here.
No echo. No, we do have echo.
We do have echo.
Yeah. I don't know who it is. I
Um,
wonder if it's
you're blank for me. Anyway, I digress. So they always bring up the tools, and I just find it silly. Like, we don't know how it doesn't make sense to me, especially with this vase situation, because these vases are supposedly older than the clay ones that they found in these tombs, so that again right there is a huge anomaly that is problematic, especially what Ben was talking about, how these are pre-dynastic and they're found in tombs that of pharaohs that are supposed to be, a couple generations before the clay pots that were found that also look like they're imitated, from these. So
Yep.
it's wild stuff, man. I think it's
Yeah,
really not explainable at this
I
point.
look at it the same way as the stuff about, the other video too. They talked about just how they were able to move the stones to build the pyramids. It's probably the same technology. You know what I mean? It all ties in together, kind of like how were they able to do that? Because especially when you start getting to like the 1,500-ton stones and stuff like that, there's no way you could put that on logs and roll it. The logs would get crushed, right?
Yeah.
And then
Well,
it's like, how do you float that down a river? And so that's what I'm saying. This all starts to sound like there was some sort of advanced technology for at least for them, or a technology that we're just unaware of, that you can do certain things, and maybe the technology we use now wasn't used back then, and they would look at it the same way, like they wouldn't be able to do certain things, like holy shit, you can do that. Maybe they didn't get to like the AI or the electronics or computer aspect of microchips, you know what I mean? Because they were like they talked about, they were dealing with like plasma and all that kind of stuff.
well, when I say the word technology, what do you think of?
I think of anything that, yeah, absolutely.
And
Electronics, stuff like that.
like exactly. And I just looked up the definition, the application of scientific knowledge for practical purpose, especially in industry. So machinery and equipment developed from an application of scientific knowledge, the branch of knowledge dealing with engineering or applied sciences. So we're viewing it through a lens that like this ancient technology or advanced technology is something electrical, it's dealing with radio waves, which is what we are typically using. But for all we know, their technology was a lot more rudimental, or it was simplistic, and maybe they used resonance,
Vibrational frequency type
exactly.
stuff,
I
plasma.
think that's. I
The
think
problem
that,
we have is we look at the stuff across the board through our lens, and we try to apply what they're doing the way we do things, and we do it with everything historical like that, and it usually ends up just slowing everything down.
Yeah, precisely.
yeah, I'm thinking a lot of it now. It seems like a lot of it comes back to using stuff that we don't really do. We know we're aware of the technology, or we use it, but we haven't really went in that direction to try to maximize it. And that's that ultrasound, the magnetic stuff. Like there's been research in it. But I think a lot of that has to do with when you read some of these things, especially when I was talking about in that war, the Atlantis versus Lemuria, and the guy that wrote the book was talking about how it's the weapons they used was unlike what we use. Like Atlantis had the weapons where they said the power of the sun. Well, when I say that, the first thing everyone would think of is nuclear, right? But
Yeah.
does that mean like splitting the atom necessarily? No. What does a magnifying glass do to ants? Right. So
Right.
maybe they use the energy and they give a glass and they could just melt like enemies and stuff, and use like with the power of the sun, just the rate. You know what I'm saying? That deal. But the sound effects, sound waves, using those things to cause tremors, cause earthquakes, things like that. We're talking about do that now with HARP, and changing the weather, the climate. That's all used by certain magnetic pulse EMPs, things that we don't really use that kind of stuff, technology, but we're aware of it. We know it can cause damage when we get hit by the solar flares. We have that protection and stuff. So I think there's a technology that we didn't really go after, or that maybe it split off, and that's why it might have been it's advanced to us in some ways. But I think those people in the past may not have advanced in other areas where we've advanced. You know what I mean? There's like a branching. But like, look how long like the pyramids have lasted. I mean, what other like man-made structures and civilizations?
Right.
I mean, hell, you see like log cabins from like the 1800s. They're all turned to rubble, right?
Well, and again, you know, these are made from this hard stone, the same stone that it's granite, right? And it's the same
Yeah.
type of stone that these vases are made out of.
Yeah.
And that would kind of to me hint towards, yeah, like maybe there's this whole kind of inherited culture or civilization theory that a lot of these guys talk about is in fact true. And you know, we do know that the pyramids don't, you know, they weren't just raw granite. Like they had like they were plated at one point too. And when you hear them talk about like when you go visit them, apparently hopefully when the world calms down in the next couple decades.
Dude, that's one of the places I want to go to is Egypt, and I also want to go to the Holy Land.
Yeah, no, exactly. Maybe when there isn't a full blown war going on.
Going to Egypt would be nice.
It would. It'd be fucking sick. And apparently, though, you know, we've built in handrails and made it more accessible to get to certain areas, but I've heard multiple people say it doesn't really feel like where you're walking, how to get into certain like rooms and whatnot throughout the pyramid, that it doesn't feel natural. Like it wasn't meant to be a place that you're supposed to climb through.
It wasn't meant to be a tourist spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's funny. It's like, well, you know, hundreds of years from now, or thousands of years, maybe if our stuff lasts, it's what if like we're just like we're theorizing on like our like we're theorizing on the pyramids, like maybe future humans will theorize on like the Great Dam, you know?
No, that's
you
what's
know,
gonna happen. It'll happen. It'll happen for sure. You got, you know, they talk about the past. You got the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and then you have the 7 wonders of the world that are currently, you know. And so it's like, what's going to be able to make it that long? Like I said, you look like you got stuff like the Great Wall of China that's still around. You know, there's obviously the pyramids, and there's some other, you know, stuff out there. But what's going to be out there that, because the way we build and stuff, is it going to last that long? And I can't honestly say that 5,000 years from now that something's still going to be standing. You think the Golden Gate Bridge is still going to be standing in 5,000 years from now? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think the bedrock, I think a little road or something. I mean, they could reinforce it, but I don't think it's going to stand just based on the bed. Like when you talk about erosion and how sea levels rise, and it's just not going to make sense, right? So,
well, and you know, just to kind of see it through the lens of the people that completely discount this stuff, like I totally understand. Like they were building out of stone, and like I understand to a certain degree, right? That like they must have had something way different than what we are used to, and so it's hard for anyone who doesn't have an open mind to really grasp that perhaps there was just another way of doing things, you know, back in that time period. Like, you know, especially with sites like Göbekli Tepe and all of this really intricate stonework that we like to pretend like we're so much more advanced than these people. But again, we're not doing anything similar to how the pyramids were built, how these big walls were made, you know, the huge, like unidentified walls that you find all over Europe, Americas, with these giant stones, you know, that fit perfect. You can't even slide a piece of paper through them.
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing stuff like that. And if you start asking people, like, you know, to start here, build me this, they're gonna be like, oh, it's too expensive. We can't do that. It's going to take, you know, 10 cranes to lift one rock, you know, that type of thing. So I don't know. I think it's understandable why people don't agree to it, but I think it's very,
but somehow it got
naive.
done. They, you know, they disagree, but they're not willing to put forth an actual theory that explains, you know, functionally how it got done. They just knock everyone else's theory down.
Well, and that ties into the vases, right? Because no one has an explanation on how these can be made, and they, based off of what Ben was talking about, that he like apparently they don't even take the time to think about it. They're like, "Oh, this is from this time period, and we don't really have to look into it any
Yeah,
further."
they said so much they got to cover. They want to move on to the next.
Well, because
Yeah,
the vases themselves, just looking at them, and it pretty much spits in the face of every the way they think things are done. So the deeper they dig into it, of course, they're going to have to start admitting, like, okay, so maybe it was this, or maybe it was that, and it just goes against their narrative.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you just we go around the horn real quick? What do you guys think they actually were for? What do you think they made for? Do you think they're just ceremonial, or do you think they were like
Mm.
decorative?
Ceremonial, maybe decorative, yeah, something like that.
I
Maybe
think
they
they
were
were.
functional.
I that's where I was going to go with it. I think they were functional, and both. I think both. We
There's a
today
lot
have.
of them. They found a lot of them. There's like
Yeah,
what they say, like 30,000.
Yeah, 50,000, I think it
Like
was.
that's a lot of like that's a lot of to make that to go through that much trouble. That's not just like hey, let's go down to Aaron's Crafts and make some.
Yeah,
look, I think it's like their version of fine china, right?
I
Like,
think so.
right.
I think it was definitely like maybe even for like maybe considered like you know bougie status, like for those the high rollers, like like you like royalty or whatever, like you not maybe like the peasants or the general public didn't have them, but like if you had to have
Yeah.
some money to get it,
right,
uh,
right.
but
That's what they said about the higher end people. They said that that's where they found the majority of the stuff is buried
Well,
buried with the more royal
yeah,
people.
well, but also, they found 50,000. There could be 2 million of them
there probably is there's
in
something
in Göbekli Tepe or Karahan Tepe, or under the ground somewhere in the Middle East that we just haven't discovered yet, and there could be just a whole buried city with a bunch of
there's
stuff like this.
there's a lot. Here's the thing. So, um, I don't know if you guys remember back because it's been now about a decade, but do you remember when the whole because I think Obama was president, but after Iraq and all that stuff, do you remember when ISIS like blew up and stuff? It was
Oh,
basically
dude,
like
this
covered
is.
parts of Syria
I
and
know where
covered
you're
parts
going.
of Iraq. And remember they were going around destroying like
Oh,
ancient Sumerian sites and stuff, like knocking down like they
dude.
should have blown them up and like they because they felt like it was a an
Well, it goes
insult.
against their religion. Yeah,
Well, and people were like, dude, those are historical sites you're blowing up.
they were
And
blowing things up that were like, yeah,
like yeah like
10.
they were protected under like the world, like they were world historical sites, and ISIS
Yeah.
didn't give a fuck. I'm like, dude, like, but that makes you think, like, dude, what was there? What did they blow up? Like, you saw statues, like it looked like they were blowing up and knocking over. You saw the guys pulling them down with the trucks and chain,
Well,
and I'm
Yeah,
just like,
that shit is
man,
sad.
it
And that
was sad.
shit you'll never get that back either.
And there's a
That's the
lot.
sad part about
That
that.
area's been under conflict for like decades now, right? But there's
Yeah.
a lot of rich stuff there, and even now, like you can't really get into the West. Really can't get into Iran.
mhm.
Iraq is cool, but they're not cool. They want to like, hey, you fucked us up. Let us go ahead and get back on our feet and leave us alone. Kind of stay out of it. So they don't want intruders. And then Syria has been under dictatorship forever, and so there's not much going on in the area. But that area is so rich. Like that's the cradle of civilization. So nothing's really been done there in freaking decades as far as like research and going back, and stuff like that. And that's what was funny is when you sent that thing about finding the two in Gilgamesh, and they
Oh
said
yeah.
the military came in and said bullshit. They were there looking for oil. They gave a shit about Gilgamesh. They
Right.
just came in with Chevron trucks and just put a big old
Yeah.
pipeline. Said, yeah,
Well, I wouldn't doubt for a second that there's some stuff that they're not telling us that's out there,
oh,
right? That
absolutely.
they found something, and that's really the
100%.
interesting part.
100%.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And whether it was like something that's significant as that, or just some sort of like, other something else. Because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff there that's buried under sand, under all kinds of infrastructure that, that they didn't really think about. That's like, what else are we not seeing that's still under the earth? it's kind of like that whole shit that Turkey's doing now. You sent that shit about Göbekli Tepe, and I was like, Tepe, and I was like, what the hell is that shit? Like, they said they're going to stop digging, and they're
Right.
not gonna let that sit there. And then what's already is exposed is not really protected that well. And, I'm like, dude, seriously, like, that should be considered any sort of historical site, no matter where it's at, what country. As soon
Yeah,
as
that
it's
shit is sad.
as soon as it's registered or whatever, it needs to be considered like, like basically an international crime if you don't like let us find out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
Like,
just another example of them dragging their heels, though, man.
Yeah,
Anything that
well, it's
anything
like
that
this
goes
is why the
against
UN
the
doesn't work,
narrative.
because the UN doesn't work. Like, you say, hey, look, Turkey, like, check it out. Have people come in. You can sit there and monitor it, but this is a historical site. Bring in vetted, archaeologists, scientists, whatever, from universities, whether it's Oxford, whatever, around the world, to come in there and do their thing. Obviously it needs to be funded,
Right.
but if they
Especially
want to,
places like Göbekli Tepe that
yeah,
offer so much promise and the ability to maybe teach us something new.
and that place in Indonesia, the one they
Right.
said it's like, whatever, like that's possible chambers or whatever that would be like 50,000 years old. It's like, dude, you got to go ahead and let someone get in there, man. I know Indonesia's, it's Muslim, so they're not going to go ahead and just let anybody come in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow, that's
I
so
mean, look at
exciting.
like you have to be so naive to just pass this off as nothing to see. It's nothing special. I mean, dude, this is I don't know how much experience you guys have with like just simple landscaping and shaping of like pathway flagstone. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I've laid sidewalk like brick, side steps and stuff like that, stone, flat
Yeah.
stone and stuff. But that's nothing. This is
That's
totally different.
that's what I'm saying. Just like I would beg anyone who
How do you core that out? I'm just the
Yeah.
coring.
Yeah.
The coring is what gets me. Okay, you go down, but then you have to expand. And like, how do you do that? Because you can't like do you go in there and have this thing that comes out and starts like chiseling out? What
Well,
kind
so
It
what
doesn't
he said when people started arguing, saying you can't do that, you can't be this precise with hand tools. They said, okay, well, you know, maybe you're right. They probably did this on a lathe, but like that's why I brought up the lathe argument because like you have to have a wheel and a pulley system for a very old lathe system, where you probably have a foot press and you're constantly hitting the pedal and causing a wheel to move, in a pulley system that's causing a beveled tip to spin in another direction, which would
Yeah.
allow you to even insert a hole. But that just doesn't make sense. The timing's not adding up, like the holes alone on the sides, like the handles, like that. Come
Mhm.
on, you've got to be.
So another thing I was
Yeah.
thinking is, so I think if they use some sort of heat, that you would see scoring marks, right? If there was some sort of
For sure.
and there's no scoring marks. So I mean,
That's
I'm cutting out. I'm thinking of all these different things that could
no, that's a
and
good point because
lasers. Like I just don't get it. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like,
It's so
I'm trying to
intricate.
rationally think of how you make that with any type of tool, whether it's ancient, current, and then what kind of, if you have like, there's some, usually when you cut something, and because like I said, I do stuff with wood, and I've done stuff with like, had to chip away at like certain things, but there's some sort of marking, and there's no marks on this. Like, it's so smooth,
I-
it's so like
so
precise.
we can all go on around the horn on this one too. My speculation is something to do with water, whether it's a tool mixed with water. I'm personally thinking like because you had said there'd be some sort of scarring, especially with igneous rock. It's not just one mineral. Like there's multiple minerals composited together, like like granite, lapis lazuli, all the other types. Like here, I don't know exactly what type of mineral this is, but I'm gonna take a guess that the white in this is quartz. So even if you're heating up, even if you're using high temperatures, it would like look like a glass almost, in certain areas. If you're that's my thought process. I don't know what you guys are thinking on this. I think water, they had some form of like hydraulic technology, again, maybe they learned how, and every pyramid has water beneath it. So who knows? Maybe the pyramid was some form of advanced like factory in a sense, but that's very far out speculation. What do you guys
That's what I'm going to go with too, because there's other areas where they've found these super large cuts into the heavy stones, and they think it might have been done with something like a large water saw type things.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
what
what I
if
would probably say.
what if they figure out how to, I don't know, how to make water like a high powered
Pressure washer.
I mean, essentially, because there's I have I worked on a metal shop one time, and this guy was cutting out different gears and pieces for like medical machines, and they had something called a wet saw, and it literally shot water out at such a high or such a rapid speed that it would cut through metal and steel.
No, that's absolutely.
It's
I
a
have
real
a
thing.
pressure washer. I have a pressure washer that you got to use this. If you use a certain type of deal, it'll strip paint. It'll cut into the concrete.
It'll cut your leg probably.
Oh
if
yeah,
you miss.
it will cut, yeah. No, it cuts. It'll cut into the concrete. It's a high powered gas powered one. So I mean, yeah, I guess possibly. What about like, man?
I'm gonna grab some ice. You guys keep this going for a second.
I'm thinking about like maybe like you said, a combo. But like, what about like a diamond edge like saw, or like a blade? You know what I mean? Like a diamond edge tip.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're using diamonds and stuff, you're going to be making nicks and marks in it that you have to be able to smooth out.
Dude, they've some of the weirder ones are like they knew how to change the molecular makeup of the stuff and like soften it and manipulate it that way.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing too about, like, I was thinking. So usually, if you like, obviously you go camping and you usually make a fire pit. It's usually granite stones around the fire pit, right? They scar. They'll get smoke. Like if you burn the wood, like they get black, and I mean, you'd have to wash it off. So it can't be direct heat and fire.
Yeah.
So I mean, because I doubt they washed the stones, and you would still see some sort of residue marked up on that. So I think what you're talking about is like water. Man, yeah, with high pressure, yeah. But then again, you have to be able to have some sort of device that creates high enough pressure to cut and do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which then once again is a type of an engine, whether it's combustible fuel, whether it's some solar powered. I don't know, man. Either way, it's like you got to try to figure out for an action, like you need some sort of like, I don't know, some device to make it work, because naturally you can't get that kind of water pressure.
It's fucking Justin.
Yeah. Well, there was also a few of the times when Ben was talking about there's some decorative statues that won't show their finer details unless you get them wet.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
Like water obviously had something to do with some of that stuff.
Well, another one I find interesting. I forgot the name. There's those. I've sent you guys videos of it. There's those caverns in India where like if you sing in it, it resonates in a certain frequency. And that is also carved out of one rock, and it's perfectly flat. It's another. I'm wondering if these technologies were shared at one point, or system of doing things. But it made me think, like, with the heat, like, what if they are causing these hard stones to heat up and become malleable through resonance, and you vibrate it enough and it starts building up heat like that, and then you can then insert some sort of, maybe then you use water to slowly chip away through the stone. I don't know. It's so hard to actually grasp how they got to this stuff.
Man, I've thought about it every single way. Like I said, another way. I mean, like I said, maybe if I was a chemist, I could think of like some sort of chemical way to do it. Soften the stone, or at least. But that still doesn't take. To me, I keep on looking at the outside of that. It's the one that blows me away is the pouring and then expanding the inside the core to hollow that thing out, and then to make it like go down like it just I can't. Someone would have to explain to me how they did it, and I'd be like, oh, okay, and they could tell me whatever they used. Like, well, I did this.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, cool. But right
Well,
now, just like trying to think about how the ancients did it, I just can't even
Right.
think
Well,
about.
and that's one of the funniest parts about this is even with a high-powered hand drill, you wouldn't even be able to make the 2 small holes on the handles
Dude, I tried to.
through
You've ever tried
granite.
to drill into a freaking wall with tile wall with those drill bits?
Yeah,
Dude, that's a bitch. Dude,
it is.
man, I mean,
Well,
that's
you have to have a tiny pilot hole, and then you can
yeah,
start upsizing them slowly. And then you do need to have, you want to have
those
like
are
some
rebound.
water
Those are
nearby.
too.
Your bit it's possible your bit gets stuck and then cracks off of your
Yeah,
drill.
yeah.
It's a bitch. And look at the size of that hole. That looks, at least just based off the picture, that looks like a half-inch hole, at
Easy.
least minimum
Yeah,
half
I would
inch,
say
3/4 of an inch of a
I
hole.
would say, or like, I'm basic good with my metric stuff. I would say a 0.370 metric. The size of a golf hosel
Yeah.
for a club.
Hey,
That's what it
someone
looks
clip
like to
that.
me.
Someone
That's
clip
what-
Steezo doing that real quick. Yeah.
Hopefully Ghostface doesn't log on.
Yeah.
Oh shit. No, he's taking a shower right now.
Yeah, right. The high resonance shower.
Yeah.
No,
The
but
beat.
bring up the coring, Steezo. It's like that's why I wanted to talk about like kind of zoom in on the handles alone, because like that's already, this area is already confusing enough. Like, how the hell did they hollow this whole thing
Dude,
out?
it blew me away. It blows me away. Like I said, this is one that you guys brought up, and I was like, I got to do some homework on it. And I
Yeah.
watched the videos, and obviously the very first video, I was shocked enough, and then there was some redundancies in the other ones, but like each one they expanded on it even more.
Oh yeah.
And then of course I had to deal with the freaking the nightmares of the fucking the poles flipping on me. But
Yeah.
you guys didn't warn me about
Oh,
don't
that'll
think I got
that'll
to
give you
that.
that'll give you nightmares real quick.
on 2 videos too. The second one wasn't as bad as the first one. But yeah, I was like, whoa. I didn't need to hear about that one right there. Now I got to think about how that ending of the world comes, right?
Hey, when it happens, we're gonna go quick, so it's not the biggest
I don't
deal.
know what it is. I don't know though. I don't think none of that's going to happen because I think someone's watching out for us. I'm not saying the majority of us won't get wiped out, but I think that some will make it, but I don't think we'll all get wiped out. I think there's somebody watching out for us.
What do you think, Antonio?
No good way.
Oh my god.
Nice.
No mames, way.
You see an asteroid coming. No mames.
Yeah. Yeah, man. This one was fun. We're probably gonna. I'm not gonna end it this minute, but we're probably gonna go on for another 20 minutes or so. Get to an hour.
Plus, we got to talk about what we're gonna do next.
Yeah, for sure. And this one was like, I feel like this is again something we can revisit because I'd like to also come back a little bit more prepared in terms of the more grander scheme of this, like evidence of machinery in not just Egypt, but like also places like the Americas, because there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, we were talking about it before. There's beveled saw cuts in stone, throughout Egypt and even in South America and different areas.
A lot of the stuff you see all over the world, man. The same style of technology, the same style of cuts and statues.
Cutting out of bedrock. I mean, that's again. How are they doing this? And how are you making precise cuts in smaller stones that are
have
hard?
The same kind of, there's some stuff that I was thinking about too after watching those videos you guys sent. I mean, the topics were about this, but every now and then they would refer to like how there was, they talk about younger Dryas and how there was different apocalypse, that happened and stuff. But the one thing they did mention was kind of like how there were certain areas around the planet that some of the catastrophes that have happened, they weren't truly global like some of the other events. Like Randall Carlson said, the younger Dryas wasn't global. It was like a
Just
large,
the Americas, like, right?
but well, the northern hemisphere basically is what he basically said. There was multiple things that, but he goes, Australia pretty much made it through rather unscathed. And if you look at like, if you study the Aborigines, they technically like have been around like for a long, long time, and they were isolated on that.
Yep.
And that's why you see a lot of those animals, how Australia kind of got separated off, and they kind of have their own like their deal there in Australia because they weren't influenced for the longest time, and they were stuck on that island. But you do see some of the cousins in Southeast Asia of those same species that are in Australia. But the Aborigines made it through for a long time, and they basically even said that they might be considered their own race.
Yep. And they have some of the crazier stories too.
They do. Touched by some of those other deals. And then you saw that shit I sent you today that was posted on Rogan's Instagram about that mastodon tusk, where it showed the tool in there, and they said that it's 27,000 years old. I'm like, dude, that's right there. Just
I think he brought that up when talking to the dude from Alaska, the boneyard guy.
That's his boneyard.
Who it was.
Yeah,
that's
what I thought. That's what I thought.
Finding this stuff,
and not only that, he found a tusk that looked like it's a straight cut through a tusk, and those things supposedly haven't been around during the time of humans. So how is it going to snap in half perfectly?
They're not. Well, they found part of the tool in the tusk. That's what they're like, there's no way. And it's been under that, underground for so long that it wasn't like somebody found it recent last 100, 200 years and then buried it again. It wasn't like someone found it, it was killed. It's like they went ahead and carbon dated the tusk to 27,000 years ago. That means that tool was used 27,000 years ago. That means that there were people in Alaska 27,000 years ago.
Well, even if it's 5,000 years off.
Right.
It's either much older than that, or it still doesn't fit in the timeline. That
it doesn't fit in the timeline that the indigenous came across and came into America, which means they weren't the first ones here. There was already people here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first thing that's going to go. The more we find out, the first thing that's going to go is the timeline. It's going to go back way further than anybody thinks.
I think that's what I'm seeing about all these other historical sites where they're trying to like gatekeep. They're trying to hide it.
Yeah.
And
it's not going to be just 5,000 years. So you're talking like 50, 60, 70,000 years.
I'm thinking decades.
I'm thinking like they've already confirmed. I'm thinking you're going to find, because here's what happens. I think what happened is I think human sapiens, us, or have been around about 1 million years. Because they already proved that. But I think what happened with these other ones, like the Neanderthals, I think we just kicked everybody's ass. I think our brains were evolved or whatever, or we were given a higher sense of purpose. Because when you just look at us, and they brought this up in one of the videos that was out there, was about how of all the species on the planet, how it takes us so long to before we can actually take care of ourselves. That as children we need help, all this stuff. Whereas most species, within a few weeks or months, they can run faster than the predator. They can get away. They don't need all this help. But we're the only species, and it doesn't take much to kill us or damage us. It's almost like we weren't made for this planet.
Yeah.
Everything else is, you know what I mean? So that's the thing I was trying to say is that, however, I think that what happens, our brain was able to go ahead and we just basically wiped out all the other evolutionary type beings that were around at the time.
Regardless if that's true or not, I think there's an obvious whether it's on purpose or not, there's an obvious neglect to acknowledge certain aspects of this, like where they just write it off as you're a conspiracy theorist. And personally, I think that people weigh on, and this is aliens conspiracy. I do think there is some form of negligence that's intentional from the people at the top of these institutions like history and archaeology,
100%.
because
and it's across the board too. It's across the board.
And it's because they can't explain it to us. That's really what I was trying to get my point across.
The Vatican too. They're the
right.
original gatekeepers.
Well,
Yep.
and I think they know there are things out
Oh,
there that
they
aren't being
have
released to the public, and
Yeah,
they're
the
like,
Vatican definitely knows. Vatican
yeah,
definitely knows some
They,
shit.
they do.
well,
They definitely know some shit.
well, it's just there's too many. So one of also like Gobekli Tepe, that's brought up a lot, and if you're in this realm of thought, and Karahan Tepe and other locations, they don't want to dig that stuff up until they know for a fact that they can explain something in a rational way
Right.
without being like, we were totally wrong. But
Yep.
that's what I think they're afraid of, is they don't want to admit that like they're wrong, which at the end of the day, I don't care if you're wrong. Like, I just want, like, I want to know more about what's going on here, like,
I just want to know the truth, man. It's okay.
exactly.
Everyone's wrong as you learn and we discover new things. There's going to be wrong shit, but you can't.
Dude.
You got to admit it and step over it to get to the truth.
Up until the 70s, they were saying, cigarettes are fine for you. They're
Yeah.
in the 50s, they were giving fucking whiskey to babies to make them go to sleep.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
It's like we barely know what we're doing still,
Yeah.
even though we are much more advanced. Like, I'm not going to throw shade on all of modern technology, but like
Right.
there's stuff that we are still getting right and getting wrong at this point. Like,
Yeah. Well,
I don't
we'll
know.
never be able to move on to the truth unless we can admit we were wrong. So
Yeah,
it's all good.
That's kind of where I'm at too. And the whole we've done. I don't know if you guys were on for this one, but the Arizona, like those caverns that you're not allowed in Arizona.
Yeah.
I watched that one, but I was not for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we should revisit that at one point too. That one's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Is that the one that has the where they said they might have found the Egyptian artifacts and stuff?
Yeah, and I was talking to someone at one point, and they're like, why do all these ancient civilization stories always lead back to Egypt? Isn't that kind of funny?" And it's like, well, maybe Egypt isn't the center point, but that's just the most evidence we have right now. So everyone
Right.
all of these things do lead back in some way, shape, or form, but maybe Egypt was just one of the lucky standing areas, and that it was kind of what, like, the thought that Corsetti always talks about, that maybe Atlantis wasn't one place. Maybe Atlantis was like
Different places now.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I
That
think
makes sense.
Atlantis was like a worldwide type civilization.
right.
It was
And the other
just
ones were-
maybe Atlantis or Egypt was the central hub.
Yeah, and
Maybe Egypt wasn't even in the central hub. It's just what's left standing, or what we can see. Like, who knows? There could be
Right.
an identical pyramid of Giza in underneath the jungle somewhere.
My question is, why back then, if you look at during the time frames too, and all around the world, these ancient civilizations who supposedly didn't have contact with one another, right? Why was the choice of building a pyramid? Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't look the same, but the concept is like nowadays you go to like different countries, houses look different, right? The way dwellings, the way they're built, in America, the way they're built in Sweden.
They all have the same function, though.
They all have the same function, but they're just design is different. But
Right,
not with ancient civilizations. Those pyramids, like they're pyramid, like why was that considered?
Yeah,
Now,
true.
we know for a fact that basically the pyramid is the strongest, foundation, the way it's built now. But how did they know that back then?
Well, and also obelisks, you see those
Yeah.
all over the place too.
Definitely
And
seems like there was communication between all the civilizations.
why are you finding Egyptian artifacts in Japan? Like,
Yeah, that's crazy too. Yeah. They shouldn't have any. There should be no reason when you look at like any sort of like, even because we know what kind of technology the Egyptians used they weren't seafaring people.
Well, and have you guys looked into the pyramid in China, and they found a whole army of those stone? I forgot what the practice is in China.
Is that the Mummy 3 when they're trying? No, I'm just kidding. Is that what that was from when they were in China? Was Mummy 3?
Yeah. Bro, I knew it was coming. As soon as he said the Mummy 3, I knew that shit was coming.
But do you remember that? Was it 2? Was it 3 where they go to China?
I think it was 3,
Yeah.
but you guys know the practice, the legit, the real practice that I'm talking about, right? Where they like they entomb like actual soldiers, I think, right, in stone or something like that. But they found this. That would be a really fun one to do at one point. But they found this. It looks like a mound, but on the inside it's shaped like a pyramid. So they're thinking that it just eroded, like the top half of the pyramid did. But it's in China.
Yeah.
They found an old king, and like 50,000 of these stone soldiers throughout this pyramid. So I mean, again, it's showing more evidence of pyramids in different parts of the world. What's up, Crimson?
Is it Vaz or Vase?
It's interesting, man. I don't know.
Definitely.
Dude, yeah, that's just I mean, this one was good because like I said, it really got me thinking. You know, a lot of those I mean, there was some serious like listen to all those people talking about like spatial geometry and all that stuff. I mean, I'm like, going back to school. I'm like, damn, dude, I'm gonna have to like write this shit down because I mean, this is some deep shit. But I got it after a while. Once it took a while, but eventually he was able to make some sense about like how your arm and like how it's the same distance, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
You know what I'm saying? Like he dumbed it down, and explained it for me because I'm like, you know,
Randall Carlson really broke it down.
So I was really impressed with that, you know. And there's some other stuff that he mentions too, and it makes sense. A lot of the stuff he says, and basically even like, you know, sometimes like when you listen to Billy Carson, he just gets on a tangent, right? And he just rolls off his tongue. He's such a smooth talker, but then you have to go back and kind of look and stuff, and you got to realize he's pulling from so much different material that what he did is he kind of said, okay, I'm gonna take this from the Book of the Dead here, and then I'm gonna take it from this. I'm gonna take it, and there's like 20 different things, and then he's extrapolating and then putting it together, and it sounds so good, but sometimes it's kind of a hit or miss. You're like, I think it's some of the stuff you feel like he's okay, I get it. He's kind of filling in the points here, but he's explaining the story. So, you know, and he even admits he's like, none of this is like, but when you add it all up, it does start to make a little bit of it does start to like kind of align a little bit, but I'm not saying it's 100% real, you know, but that's what's cool about that stuff. It just gets you like, makes you start using your brain rather than listening to like someone with Flint and Dibble says, we already know that that's not true. Right. Okay. Why? Because 5 other people said so and wrote a book.
No, his dad.
His dad.
His dad's work.
So
respect his dad's work.
It's completely unbiased. All right.
Right.
Yeah. And my dad wrote it, and then I wrote a book. I just forged my dad's signature.
Well, you know what energy he gives off? Well, my dad told me this.
Exactly. Exactly.
As soon as he started talking, like, it's okay to like, you know, like be proud of your dad and like, you know, have fond feelings. But when he was using that as his argument for every point,
30, 40 different times he would reference his fucking dad's work.
Like, I mean, like seriously, like you're just, you know, now you're starting to sound like Christopher Tolkien and talking about my dad, you know, like my dad.
Well, especially when like you're like multiple times he said it, like when Graham was pressing him, he goes, "Where? Show me where the evidence is," and he goes, "In my dad's work."
My dad's work.
Not his work. Well, your dad's been, like your dad did that shit 30, 40 years ago. You don't think something else changed since then? Does your dad? So like, when did his dad die? I can't remember. His dad died like about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Like
but so look at all the stuff that's been found since his dad's died or the discovery's been made. So his dad would be like, oh, wait, I got to go back and rethink.
Change my shit. Yeah.
I mean, and not just be like, no, that can't happen, because that's the thing is when these things are happening, they have to they can go ahead and just not pay attention to them and ignore them. That's what they hope, and they'll go away. That's what they hope for.
That's the most amazing. That's the most frustrating part.
That's what they want to do, because then they don't have to explain it. Or if somebody does try to come out like Graham or someone like that, or Randall Carlson, something like that, they're going to go ahead and try to discredit them and say, nope, this guy's just trying. He's fake news. He's a conspiracy theorist. All this stuff. That's not, and they still don't have a good argument. And when I start listening to stuff, I'm like, dude, this is the same kind of shit. you hear about when anybody's trying to gatekeep, whether they're talking about history, whether they're talking about vaccines, whether they're talking about religion, whether they're every single thing you can think of. This is always the people who don't have an answer.
Right.
Right.
Well, and one thing I found funny too is during that conversation or that debate they were having, where Graham would like be showing different sites with pictures that his wife took of them, at these different locations, and he goes, Flint Dibble will start arguing with him about, well, we already know this and that, and this is false. And he goes, well, how do you know? Have you been there? Have you been to these places? He goes, no, but I've talked to people that have, and they say
Right.
this. And it's like, okay, well,
He's arguing with the dude who's
Yeah.
literally been there. It's like, bro, I was
he's
there.
like, I've seen it with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah,
Right.
Here's the deal. If you've been to a place and you say it's that way, and you told me that, it's not the same as like if Chris went to the place and saw it with his own eyes. You both
Right.
experience it. I'm only going to take one person's word for it. So
Right.
I can't give you an
Right.
objective deal because, it's so and so. He told me that it was this way. Well, I was there. Have you been there? No.
Well,
I heard
Exactly.
it makes no
Look,
sense.
I don't even take people's word at face value.
No, you
And
can't.
I this shit. I like thinking about this stuff, but I'm also not going around discrediting everyone, and
Right.
that's really where I find that type of person unsettling. Like, you're not even going to give it the time of day to even acknowledge something like these vases that we're talking about tonight. Like, it is obviously like there's something going on that is unexplainable.
Right.
And I'm not gonna be the first one to jump and say it's aliens, but there's something that people can't
There's-
explain how they're done. So, all options are open. for
Definitely
me.
wasn't done by the hand on a wheel.
Yeah, that's
I
for
mean,
sure.
For me, it's some sort of, and you don't even need to say it's advanced technology. It was advanced for the people living at the time, but alternative technology of what they were used to, or
Right.
what we're used to
Right.
now. I think it's safe to say that is something that happened back then. How they got it, well, like you said, they kept on mentioning it was inherited. It was inherited, which means,
Yep.
oh, look, I found this. Did that mean that they actually used it and made it themselves? Though I don't even think that's it. I think there was somebody
No.
else that probably made it and they found the
Before.
basis.
Well,
I,
and
I think
so-
that's exactly what it was. They
And there's
found
no
all this stuff.
There's no equipment. So
They couldn't
and-
recreate it. They
Yeah.
couldn't recreate it.
and also it's like I can't sit here and prove that the that the pyramid was built with some sort of alternative technology like you're saying, but you're not going to sit here and try to make me believe that a 30-ton rock was hauled with a pulley system and 50,000 slaves walking across the desert, like they're
Right.
that's not happening. Also, like I forgot the name of it in the Incan temple on the top of the that mountain.
Oh,
Super
yeah.
well known. You know what I'm
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about? I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called. Yeah, I don't
But
remember.
yeah, that there's one stone that's estimated to be 20 to 50,000 pounds, and it's sitting on the face of a cliff. Like,
Right.
That's
come
crazy.
on, and
So
it's
wait-
not the
so
stone
wait,
that's natural to that
That's
cliff.
not natural formation.
Yeah.
Right.
If they know it was brought there, but how? You're not going to convince me that a group of people put it on their shoulders and climbed the hill with it.
Or like
There was enough of them.
or the anti-gravity, like some sort of anti-gravity. Which kind of
Yeah,
reminds me. Did you watch that thing I sent you? Wait, did you send me the video about the interview? Or no, that's the one I said that Ultron sent it to me about the Lou Elizondo
Yeah.
interview. And then I sent it
yeah,
to you
I
guys,
watched
whatever. Did you watch it?
No,
Yeah,
I'll watch it
watch some of
later.
it.
Dude, and then I sent that other video where the guy does because Lou wrote a book right recently, and this guy did a review on the book and all that stuff, and basically kind of explains like, hey, here's the breakdown, and this guy, the guy that did the review, is like a big time, and he's incredible, and like people like him, like UFO researcher, basically
Yeah.
backed up the majority of what Lou said in the book, kind of like, yeah, I've heard that too, and this and that, and what does Lou know here?
Yeah.
Dude, that shit was wild. The part where they said that they think that the military thinks they can take down the UAPs by using EMPs because he thinks they use magnetic pulse. I'm like, why would you want to go ahead and put that out there?
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
and that's why, like, I was interested by some of the stuff he said, but it's also like Machu Picchu. Thank you,
Machu Picchu, yeah.
JF Baird.
Pikachu.
I haven't seen you before, but thank you for stopping by. That was a crazy one. But what I was saying about what was the guy's name?
Lou Elizondo.
Yeah. So when he started talking about things like that and how like we don't want to tip off what we know to the aliens, I was like, okay, this guy sounds like he's giving some disinformation to us, or trying to lead us on.
Some people would think he is controlled opposition.
I'm kind of in that train of thought, but I also don't.
Yeah, like you said, he's a psyop.
I also do believe that he was telling the truth when he's got like 4K footage that he's not allowed to talk about.
Dude, was
buying that.
That's there's a bunch of military footage that's not even made
the oil rig story he was talking about was
that was fucking
nuts.
crazy. That was fucking crazy.
I honestly believe that one. I do.
Yeah, that was wild. But the big one, what about the part where he said the freaking orbs came to his house?
Yeah, I've heard multiple people tell stories like that. Like the orbs visited them at. There's some crazy stories involving the orbs out there.
The thing is, too, Chris, you remember, this is about the alien abduction theories. People have been abducted before and have moved across the country and got abducted again.
Yeah, bro.
So, like, dude. I'm like, I'm good, dude. Like,
it's crazy.
Those aliens go, that was the sweetest piece of ass I've ever gotten.
Right.
Like, hey,
I'm going back for seconds.
I'm probing your ass again.
Yeah.
Hell no. I'm like,
bro.
dude, that's a you hear a chick say, the D was good. I'm like, you're gonna move all the way across country. And
bro, they're gonna find you. They're gonna find you.
Yeah, dude, restraining order my ass.
Yeah.
It
doesn't work with them.
Yeah, dude, that's insane,
so
dude.
funny.
You just start like looking at that stuff, and you're like, okay, and why certain people are more susceptible to abductions than others? Based on like what their brain, the way it is. It's usually people that are high sensitive to like, perception or like, what is it? Oh God, what's that word?
Retardation?
No. The clairvoyance. So like people who can like see stuff, that really gets you thinking like, wow, okay, so it's a mental thing, like where they're psychological, where they can actually like, so it's wild, man.
There's a crazy podcast I'll send to you guys whenever we get off here that it literally talks about that, exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, dude, I just think, exactly. Can you imagine fucking like someone getting fucking abducted, fucking like, dude, I'm thinking of bad shit right now. I
mean, that's what happens. I
need to stop, dude.
No, it's funny.
Fucking garden, dude.
But it connect. It goes to it makes me think what you were talking about, the clairvoyance and stuff. It reminds me of a few things. One of them is like if you like the Anunnaki stuff and the whole soul farming idea, and even Tucker Carlson's talked about how perhaps they're interdimensional and has something to do with the spiritual realm of the world or the universe, and that can kind of connect to the whole soul farming thing. It kind of makes me think like, what if these abductions are because they need. Okay, that's like science fiction level stuff, but like, yeah, they need their fix and they need to just take part of your soul or something like that. I don't know, man.
It's not everything we really talk about. Some people consider it your normal person would think this is all science fiction we're talking about.
Yeah,
it's always the craziest shit that ends up being true.
and then James Fox mentioned when he went on a Rogan, he mentioned how there's a story that he talked to from one of the I forget if it was a general or not. I forgot who he was talking to in the military, but there was a story floating around there that he was following where some some dude saw something, then ended up getting abducted after he saw a UFO, and basically his brain got scrambled. Like couldn't talk anymore. Like, it's
Wow.
I remember hearing something like that too. This kind of reminds me, like, or it kind of made me think about too. Now we're getting into this topic is what, and I thought because I was thinking of some other stuff. What do you think about that? Like maybe kind of just veering off just a tad for something that's for another topic, whether we do it next week or something else. I was thinking about that whole like human psychology thing, like telekinesis or mind, like the projection, mind reading and stuff. What do you
That
think
would
about
be cool.
that?
There's some cool shit out there regarding that.
Dude, there's like remember did you ever see the movie The Men That Stare at Goats?
Yeah, no, I mean that's
that's what I'm thinking about. Are you with me, Chris?
Yeah, bro. There's some seriously legit shit out there that we could go over regarding that stuff.
Lou Elizondo said he was trained in that shit where they did the prisoner and they did the mind reading thing. That's all kinds of stuff like telekinesis, moving on.
Well, it's the whole remote viewing. I think that's where remote viewing came from.
Yes, there's some good stories out there. I mean, that would be a good topic. I don't say we have to do it next week, but it's a little bit different than what we're talking about. But
for sure,
it
also connects to
a little bit.
There's a lot of people, a lot of people have suspected that like the whole MK Ultra thing, and with LSD and just psychedelics in general, that like they were trying to tap into telekinesis through that and whatnot.
There's so many. There's CIA papers you can straight up download from that have been declassified of all that remote viewing, all that stuff, bro. Like it's whether what they accomplished with it, it's legit. It's legit stuff that deserves to be looked at.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I just think that'd be a little bit different than what we talk about, but like. Just trying to get some. Obviously, we're gonna do Ghosts in October, like for Halloween.
Dude, I've been.
Dude, that's
we got to do Mothman. We got to do Mothman one of these times.
Mothman, dude. Mothman's
fun. I'd be down to do that next week. I need to watch the movie and look into that.
Yeah, just watch Mothman Prophecies, and then obviously you can watch some YouTube videos. But
I still don't know what the fuck Mothman is yet, and we've talked about this multiple times.
It's a crypto.
We can mix other cryptids in with it if we wanted.
Yeah, there's other ones like the New Jersey Devil and like a few others.
But I'm kind of down to slowly start doing. I slowly step away from the ancient civilization and alien stuff because we've just been doing it so much these past months.
There's other stuff out there.
I'm down to start kind of jumping into the paranormal leading up to October.
What about shit like spontaneous human combustion, dude?
What?
You never heard of that? Dude, that was
huge. People bursting into flames?
Dude, they just all of a sudden you go into their room.
Just blow up, bro.
Dude, just flame on?
Scars.
Flame on. Dude, it's like, and like they'll be laying in bed and you'll see like an
Johnny Storm.
Yeah, you'll see like an outline of like the ash of the body. That's all it's left. And the bed sheets aren't even burnt. I swear to God. Chris,
bro, it's real. No. He's real. He's straight.
Fucking
it's
real powder.
Shit. It's a legitimate thing. It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's legit. It really happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Zacchaeus. Yeah. No, it was big in I remember in the 70s and 80s. Dude, there was a time when I was a kid, I literally would talk to my parents. I thought I was going to spontaneously bust because I was reading stories. No, dude, I was reading stories. I was
oh my God, bro.
So, Stezo, what age were you diagnosed with autism? I'd like to.
Why is it the funniest thing picturing Stezo as a kid, scared shitless he's gonna fucking explode?
Mom, am I gonna burn in the
Dude, I told you I couldn't sleep when they say we're gonna fucking flip the poles, right?
Oh my God,
night, dude! I told you, I said I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm awake. I'm in Northern California, and I'm afraid I'm gonna wake up in Michigan or go face the shower, bro. Like I'm scared.
Your parents probably watched too many movies growing up.
Dude, I'm telling you, dude, I freak out on that shit. I don't get scared on like slasher films or stuff like that, but that deep thinking shit.
Just spontaneous human combustion.
Bro, that's
7 years
hilarious.
old, dude. Well, first of all, I was scared of vampires. Like normal kids are scared of the boogeyman and monsters, right? But as soon as I read that shit or watched a thing on way back in the day, Leonard Nimoy in Search of. Fucking, he did that episode on spontaneous human combustion. That shit, they did all the dude. I was fucking sitting there watching fucking Spock, dude, telling me about you can watch him, you know, like burn up.
Bro,
it was Spock. Spock of all people told you about it.
Dude, I believe that.
Stezo, every time I'm sorry, but from here on out, every time you drop a fire emoji, I'm gonna be laughing at.
Like, you're gonna get spammed. You think about spam?
Oh my god, that's
everything
funny.
about fucking human spontaneous combustion tonight.
That's funny, bro.
It's gonna be on, dude.
Bro.
I can't believe you never heard of that. It's not as big as it used to be, but
he's younger. He's younger than us, man. It was more of a thing back then.
Dude, I don't know why it was so big, but it was like big.
And it was real, bro. I remember it.
I didn't know anybody, never heard anybody dying about it, but like
it just sounds so funny. It's spontaneous human.
Yeah, I don't think it's always been there playing in bed, dude, or something. Yeah, dude, there's some shit. You gotta look it up. I'm telling you. I don't think anyone ever's made a movie on it, but. Like,
hey, guess what, Daimo? You're not gonna have to look it up because we're gonna send you plenty of shit on it.
Yeah,
I'm surprised Joe Rogan hasn't had somebody on there. Like, what do you think about spontaneous human combustion? Well, actually,
yeah, for real.
Yeah, but there hasn't been like really any. I mean, they still don't have an answer for why it happens, but they confirmed that it's happened.
It's definitely happened for real.
That's
like,
straight up simulation theory shit.
It's not like teleported, like they disappeared. Like there's an ash trail, but the bed sheets weren't even burnt. Like it just in a form of a human person.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Straight
dude.
up.
They got pictures of like that shit. It's like insane. It's something you would see like on Supernatural or something. You know what I mean, on the TV show.
No, it's fucking wild. Well, all right, gentlemen, I gotta get into bed. I'll wake up early. But
all right, man. Thanks for having us on again.
Yeah, of course. We'll figure out something to do for next week.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
Before I let you guys go, I've been just like deep diving into like paranormal stories and like poltergeists and ghosts. Just leading up to October, I'm like, ooh, I'm starting to kind of feel the spooky right now.
That would be fun. That'd be good.
Yeah, we might have to do a 2-parter on that, to be honest with you, because like, I mean, shit, you could lead it into like, obviously like the big ghost stories or haunted houses or whatever. But
I mean, I say we just choose the really fun ones, you know, whether it's demons, fucking. I know some people don't like talking demons, but I think we'd have a fun conversation.
We're
on
good.
that.
Yeah, demons.
Exorcisms is super interesting.
Demons is the shit that scares me. I'm not scared of movies like Saw or
same.
Freddy Krueger or shit like that. Shit makes me laugh. The shit's
I don't know if it's and I agree with you right there, but I don't know if it's my like Catholic upbringing, but I don't even want to go near a Ouija board. Like if I see one and people are fucking with it,
we'll get into that. I got some, so that's what I was going to say, like the paranormal stuff or like psychic abilities. My mom's side of the family, or my grandma's side of the family, they were into that shit. Ouija boards. They did seances.
I'm totally good off of that.
I got some wild. I got some wild Ouija board stories.
That's such. We might need to kick October off with Ouija boards, but you guys should definitely give me your stories like in Discord and shit. Because I don't know why I've been getting into it, but Ouija boards, like I've been getting it, like poltergeists, they kind of scare me. Like stories like that, super like I'll get chills listening to stories if they're believable. But like Ouija boards, legitimately, I'm like, nah, I don't want anything to do with them in real life. I mean, like, that's like someone would just fuck with them. Just fun.
Yeah, and then I can tell you too about it's been a long time ago, but when I was in college, one of my classes I did extra like a credit. I did a paranormal investigation with a group of paranormal investigators before it was even like in vogue or whatever. So like we're talking like mid 90s, and I went to a place, a known haunted theater, and I didn't have any personal experiences at the time when I was there, But on the follow-up investigation, I got to see the evidence that when I was there, like, because we asked questions, and I will say the EVP shit is real. I will say that. That's all I can say. It picks up stuff that like your ears can't pick up, and it would. All I can say is something happened. It wasn't manipulated, and it's impossible.
Right.
And it was crazy, but it was still a fun experience. But
Yeah.
while I was there doing that investigation, people did have personal experiences. I just didn't have any during my deal. It just didn't affect me. I was because we were all paired up. But I can tell you about that too. It was a really fun experience. I would actually do it again.
Well,
because
do you guys are you familiar with the whole Winchester story? Like the guy who made
the Winchester Mystery House.
Yeah, my brother used to
San
work
Jose?
there.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, I
Wow.
knew the whole deal about the wife and all that stuff. And
Yeah, he used to work at the house.
wow.
He's got,
Wow.
and that we could definitely bring that one up. But
That'd be a good one too.
he didn't get like attacked or anything, but he told me some spooky stuff that happened
Yeah,
late
that's
at night when he's
hot spot.
closing down the shop. Like, yeah,
That's a hot
it's-
spot.
it is. But anyway, gentlemen, it was fun. We'll figure out for people who are still here in chat. We'll figure out what we're gonna do next week. Not really sure yet. Sounds like Mothman's on the board.
Hands on the board.
And then maybe if we're lucky, spontaneous human combustion.
That's one of those ones. Like it's like you know what I mean. Like I was like, hey, I just do it out there because it's
funny as shit, dude.
That's funny. That's funny.
All right, guys. Good night.
all right, man.
All right, man. Later, guys.
Later.
Later.